This is Julianne of Leafling Learns, and I'm here to talk about goals. Hello, I'm back. I don't know if I've done many or any at all videos where I'm just kind of chatting with you all about language learning related things, but those are the kind of videos I like watching the most. So today I kind of just wanted to look at my past half year of goals and kind of how my goals went, as well as what my goals for quarter 3 will be. And it's certainly not lost on me that we're a month into quarter 3, but that's fine. Doesn't matter. We're gonna get a little cozy today. I've made tea. It's a green tea with papaya and pineapple. It's a little bit difficult to be cozy in fucking August, but we'll try our best. It's very hot. Maybe we'll just start with reviewing the past half year and what my language related goals were. I'm only studying Japanese at the moment. And when I do goal setting, I very much try to take into account how I can be empathetic to myself, how I can create systems that are sustainable rather than just like create aspirational goals and then, stress myself out and abandon them eventually, because that was kind of my past experience with goal setting. Something that I've really realized is that when I'm putting too much focus on progress, anytime that I'm starting to get really focused on the idea of progress or worrying about progress, is when it's kind of over for me. That's when I start to experience pain, essentially, mental anguish. I feel like that could be true of a lot of different realms of life, right? Like if you're just constantly focused on progressing and getting to some end goal and the goalpost keeps moving, like, will you ever be contented? And I'd rather approach things in such a way that I can be contented in where I'm at and have sustainable systems that do move me forward at, whatever pace that may be, depending on the situation. Because I can't decide what pace is appropriate for all days, all circumstances, all moods, right? I don't want to restrict myself in that way where I expect a certain pace from myself. I'd rather just, keep chipping away and enjoy where I'm at and feel contented where I'm at while also, moving forward, because the more you're exposed to the language, the better you're going to get at it. All that said, I guess I'll talk about what my goals actually were. And I should also say, each quarter I do a main goal and I do 2 mini goals, and I don't always have my main goal focused on languages. This may come as a shock, but I have many interests outside of language learning, such as design, art, crafts, fitness, my friendships. There's a lot of, I have a lot of interests that also deserve time, and a lot of them don't necessarily involve consuming anything, right? Like a lot of my language learning is consuming media and information. I have a lot of interests and hobbies that don't call for that. And I think it's good to kind of have a balance of those types of things. Like, painting, for example. I'm not consuming anything. It's more meditative and I'm creating things. I realize you create things with language as well, but all of that is just to say that sometimes those interests and those aspirations get prioritized over language learning. I never want to make it seem as though language learning is the only thing that I'm interested in or the only thing that I'm doing or my highest priority, because it's not. It simply is not. It is a high priority because I really enjoy my time spent language learning, but depending on the circumstances, it is not always my number 1B. It simply is not. So I won't go into what all of my other goals were. In quarter one, I did have a Japanese goal, and it was a mini goal. All right, it didn't make the cut. It didn't make the cut quarter one as a main goal. However, I will say that I do always have kind of a baseline desire to do somewhere around an hour of Japanese a day, ideally. I don't hit that every time, but I do want to make it clear that even though Japanese may not be my main goal at all times, it's at this point just a part of my daily life. So it's not like necessary to put it as a main goal. Well, quarter two, things change. So anyway, I won't spoil it for you. My mini goal quarter one was to boost my Japanese vocab. And this feels like a lifetime ago. When I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, was that not like November, December of 2020? And then I'm like, nah, dude, you like did your first mini immersion ever with like 3 people November 2020. You like created your Instagram account August 2020. Like, what the? It's crazy how long it feels like it's been. So boost my Japanese vocab. Basically, I was reaching a point in, attempting to do immersion activities where, and I've said this before in other videos, so I'll be concise to the best of my ability, but I've really had a quite scattered history of learning Japanese in that, I've done some textbook stuff, I've done immersion stuff, I've mostly done immersion stuff, I've done just like a smattering of things, mostly on my own. So I have like 10 plus years of smatterings of random input, right? And because of that, I reached a point in the winter where I was like, I feel like my vocab and my grammar are not not at the same level. I feel like I have all of these gaps in my vocabulary. Like, I feel like there's some essential words I don't know, like words like decrease and increase, for example, or words that I did not have that are very useful. So I decided I was going to, and I don't normally do JLPT stuff, like I'm not really aware of what the different levels entail, but I got this Tango N4 deck of pre-made Anki sentence cards. My barest minimum goal was to complete that deck. I don't remember how many cards it was because I was also deleting stuff. If there were words that I already knew that I encountered as I was going through the deck, I deleted them. So I could check. Maybe there were like 700 new words, and some of them were, I would keep some if I found the sentence, like the grammar, interesting, even if I like sort of knew the word. It's hard to give an accurate number of how many words I learned. I don't really pay attention to that sort of thing anyway, but I wish I could tell you how many cards were in the deck originally. I can check, and I can put a link to it in the description. I found it really helpful. There were a lot of gaps in some like basic vocabulary. It made reading so much more fun. So, goal completed. Check. And on top of that, I was making some of my own sentence cards. I probably should have looked up how many. People like numbers. I don't like to count things. Vocab boosted. Check. On to the next quarter. So I was having a tough time in quarter two. I was really stressed out about my job and found it very unpleasant. I was not getting enough sleep. I was having a lot of sleep issues, and then there was also from like February to like May, there was a renovation going on upstairs, and it was like every single day, just relentless hammering and noise. And I thought I was going insane. There were some days where I would just like be scream singing just to try to like cover the sound because I thought I was going to lose it. So maybe I did go insane. Things to consider. So I think I was just feeling kind of frustrated and stagnant with my job and how I was feeling. I think I was feeling as though there were more days than I wanted where I was doing like the very bare minimum for Japanese, in that, I was doing my preset sentence stack, and some days that was all I was doing. So my main goal for Q2 was consistent Japanese immersion. I wanted to make sure that every day I was getting input and not just some days. And basically, I don't know if I really did anything special to try to make that happen. My work situation was really it was pretty bad. I kept, throughout the quarter, I kept kind of trying to come up with new ways to approach, my work-life balance and making work more bearable by taking breaks and doing Japanese during those breaks. But oh man, there just wasn't really anything that could redeem the situation, unfortunately. So I ended up quitting. I think part of my goals that quarter were kind of me trying to put a band-aid on top of a root problem that had nothing to do with how I was balancing things, had nothing to do with whether I was taking enough breaks. It was just I had to change the situation entirely. So my last day was June 3rd. And I'm not going to say that I immediately started doing 8 hours of Japanese immersion a day or anything like that, because that is not what happened. One, I don't want to do 8 hours of Japanese immersion every day. That does not interest me. Two, life transitions can be painful, can be a bit of a roller coaster. It wasn't oh yes, I'm relieved now, I feel great. No, it was, a bit more ups and downs and kind of trying to come to terms with an ending. So that was my Q2. I have to interrupt myself here. I thought it might be interesting to pop in with some time tracking information, because I do time track the time that I spend with Japanese. So I'll show you here. I think part of what led me to want to do the consistent Japanese immersion goal was, if you look at January here, yes, that's a good amount of hours. I've got those crazy, that must have been mini immersion weekend, a crazy 8-hour day and whatnot. But a lot of my times, at least half of my times, are under half an hour. So I was probably just doing Anki, right? If we look at the input graph, we'll see that, yeah, my input isn't half of my time, which I would want the input to be a bigger percentage of this pie. So anyway, I think seeing that graph gave me a bit of a fright about not being consistent about exactly what I wanted to be consistent with. You can see February's a little bit better, where I'm hitting an hour minimum a lot of the time. March, again, kind of more evened out here. I am hitting about an hour every day or more. Some days no, but that's fine. Now here is my Q2, my April, my May, and my June. When we look at my input for Q2, okay, so we'll see here that April was rough. Not as many hours as my other months, and Anki was king, but I turned it around in May, where I was able to push that input back across the 50% line again. And June wasn't 50%, but we did our best. You will see in July, all of the systems and habits that I set up for myself in June were able to, hand in hand with mini immersion, push input almost to 75% of how I spent my time, which is pretty cool. And we'll get into my Q3 now, and we'll also get into why I'm a month late on talking about my new Q3 goals. And man, if you've seen that 2020 goal review video, this is probably going to sound a little bit too familiar, unfortunately. Last year, my cat and my grandfather died within 3 days of each other, and this was at the beginning of July, end of June. And last week, at the end of July, my other cat died. So we're kind of right back where we were, and I'm not really gonna get into all of my emotions surrounding that, but I guess I will say that my how personal do I want to get? I will talk about my cats, I guess. There was, 5 months of like caring for my first cat who died as she was going through medical issues, and then she died, and then right away after that my other cat started having medical issues, and I immediately started caring for her, and I've been caring for her up until last week. And especially in the past few months, that's another thing that, has been difficult, has been caring for my cat. Medicine twice a day and medical issues that just like can't be solved, and complications and surgeries and all of this kind of stuff, and just trying to do everything I can to help her. And we just ran out of things to try. So I'm not trying to write a biography of my cat. I'm just trying to say that for a year and a half, I've been a constant caretaker to living creatures who need my help. And it's been a lot of attention and a lot of routine and a lot of vet visits and a lot of my time and energy. And now that energy, that caretaker energy, doesn't have anywhere to go. All of a sudden it's not needed. And it was kind of just such a large part of, I don't want to say of who I was necessarily, because I know that I'm more than a cat caretaker, but it was to a certain extent a part of my identity, and more than that, just a part of my daily life and routines. Worry was my job to a certain extent, and I think I liked that. That sounds weird to say, but what I mean is that I'm a worrier by nature, and so to have that worry be valid, to have that worry be needed, I think it was comfortable for me. So basically I'm just a bit in a tizzy. I've never said that phrase in my life, but it's the only one coming to my head. I'm a bit in a tizzy. Just because all of a sudden, after so long, I have to not be like that anymore. There's nobody who is helped by this. And also I just miss my cats, and I miss my grandpa. And I don't feel like I need to shift my goals this quarter, which I haven't even told you my goals yet. But I am open to the possibility that I may need to adjust, and I'm glad that I'm open to it ahead of time, because there are certainly times in the past when I've grieved a parent, friends, family members, and I've not known that it's okay to adjust expectations of myself, and that can really get you in a very bad place, I think, to not give yourself any grace, to not anticipate that interests may change, moods may change, abilities / energy may change, Yeah, I don't mean to go on this tangent for too long, but I don't think I'm going to adjust anything right now. Last year, I was under the impression that last year I'd really sunken into Japanese as a way to cope / distract myself. But I looked back at my time tracker for last July, and I got 10 hours of Japanese. So it's like, well, that's not true, is it? And now that I'm thinking of it, I had a kanji goal for quarter 2 last year, and I finished it the day that my grandpa died. And so then I think maybe I was left a bit, I felt like I had nothing to hold on to at that point. So it probably was harder to continue Japanese stuff, especially because my level of comprehension was much lower then. So I think, and it was already a part of my life, but I think because my comprehension was lower, it was easier to not do Japanese stuff, if that makes sense. Like now I have a lot of compelling content that I'm enjoying, and I have content that is not ultra painful to get through, and I'll just read Japanese for fun. So I think it will be different this time. I don't think I'm going to drop Japanese entirely, because I think now it fits into my life with less effort than it did. So yeah, I must have dropped it then. Don't intend to drop it now. Finally, my goals for quarter 3, my Japanese goal for quarter 3 is a mini goal. The goal is gentle Japanese output, and how perfect that I already was prioritizing gentleness. Basically, I'm reaching that point again where I'm reflecting on what I can and can't do, where I'm feeling any pain points, and I'm at this point where my output ability does not match what I can comprehend. And I know that that's always, or for a lot of this journey, that's going to be the case. I understand that. But I do think that I'm a bit skittish about doing output, and I have, in my experience, when I've done my italki lessons, which is my safe space for like vocal output, when I get the chance to utter grammar or vocab that I have encountered in my input times, it helps me so much to kind of solidify it and make me comfortable trying to use it when I'm thinking in Japanese or writing something in Japanese or speaking in Japanese. And I know that there are some people who do immersion learning who don't do the output. I also know that people have different goals and different ideas of what they would like to do with Japanese, so output is not a priority, or maybe they think that, after however much input, then it will just come naturally, and that is perfectly fine. I just know part of what I would like to do with my Japanese is to communicate with my Japanese friend, is to be able to write things as well. So, and I have this italki tutor who's great and corrects me anytime I say anything even slightly weird. I know that some people say like natives won't correct you, but like she corrects me. And I do really find that it's helpful for me to be corrected. It helps me understand better how things are used, to interact with the language in that way. So all of this is just to say that I want to spend a little more time focusing on outputting, because I do think that part of the problem is my fear of vulnerability, which I've been grappling with for a while. I've made great strides, don't get me wrong, but there is something very vulnerable about speaking a language that you don't know. And I've had experiences in the past where the idea of being bad at Japanese was like shameful. So it was safer to just not try. So I have to be really gentle with myself here. And because I know, like, and it also embarrasses me to be able to understand so much more than what I'm able to form into a sentence. But anyway, what I'm focusing on for this goal is writing, because it's slower. Because if I'm able to be slower and more intentional about what I'm outputting, I'm going to give myself more opportunities to try new things that I've not tried, like grammar that I am familiar with, and get feedback on it as well, not just write it and be like, all right, done. I fucked all this stuff up, but good enough. No, like I'm getting feedback on it to make sure that it's being used in a natural way. Because yeah, when I'm speaking, I'm not gonna think to use complicated grammar, because I'm just trying to like get any thought out So I'll just shoot it out in whatever baby language comes to my head first, right? So my idea is I'll just spend a little bit of time writing and see if it helps my speaking. It's an experiment, and I will let you know how it goes. Again, maybe my goals will shift. This Japanese goal this time really is more minimal than my other goals, which have nothing to do with Japanese. So if anything, the other ones will probably have to adjust. Because yeah, otherwise, you know, my immersion time persists. I keep doing my italki lessons. Japanese is a part of my life to such an extent that I'm not worried about it. Because if I just keep showing up, I know I'll get somewhere eventually. I'm not worried about progress. I'm not worried about efficiency. I have no interest in efficiency or progress as long as I'm having fun and appreciating the work that I'm doing for future Julianne, and appreciating where I'm at and what I can't understand right now. I'm just trying to keep it easy breezy beautiful to the best of my ability. There's so much to stress about. I don't think I'm gonna let language learning be one of those things if I can avoid it. I've not really touched on this, I guess, but I'm sure people kind of like goal videos because they're also kind of progress videos. And so I guess my report is that I feel like I've made progress. I'm not worried about progress, but I feel like I've made progress. Perhaps in the past couple of months, not as much as at the beginning of the year, but I think that makes sense considering the circumstances. Yeah, I feel like I've been able to enjoy a lot more content than I was at the start of the year, for sure. Absolutely. I made a video back then where I was sentence mining NHK Easy News, and you know, it was easy. It was like somewhat easy, but there were a lot of words, maybe not in that article, but you know, I've read it in the past, and there would be a lot of new words or whatever, and now when I read NHK Easy News, it actually feels quite easy, which is great. Obviously, there are often new words if I'm reading about like a new topic or whatever, but not a ton of new words because it's easy news, so they go easy on you. I have been finding reading a lot quicker and easier. I've been playing Bokujo Monogatari, Story of Seasons, Saikai no Mineraru Town. That's how I spend a lot of my time, and I find that so enjoyable. Years ago, I would have tried to play a video game, and it would have been like me just going through the motions of the game mechanics, you know, but now when I'm playing this game, I actually understand what people are saying to me, and it's incredible. I can understand instructions, I can understand dialogue. It's great, and I find it ripe with I+1 sentences, which is amazing because I can very easily learn words in context and, you know, screenshot, make my little sentence cards, whatever. And I'm just also a lot of things I don't need to make sentence cards for because they just keep saying the words, and it's like, okay, like I know this word now. So progress, check. Goals, did I complete all? Boost my Japanese vocab, yep. Consistent Japanese immersion, yep. I'll let you know about gentle Japanese output. This video was very free form, so let me know if it was enjoyable at all to watch. This is the kind of video I like watching, but I don't know if other people do, so I would be more than happy to make more videos like this, but I need to know if it's worthwhile. So let me know. I do have ideas for other videos. There have been other videos I've wanted to post and, well, to create and post in the past month. I just haven't gotten around to it, so I hope to do that very soon. I have a lot of free time on my hands, so. All right, that's it. It's really warm in this room. If you could see the back sweat. Why am I drinking hot tea?